My name is Lisa. I'm with Queen Bee Creations. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and I'm here today to teach you how to make a fun fold card. And we're going to be making this fun fold right here. This is a new to me fold I had not seen before, using some new products out of our holiday catalog, the little mini August to December mini from Stampin' Up! And of course, all of the supplies we're using today are Stampin' Up! And can be purchased in my online store. I did get on top of things this morning, and I already gave you guys the list. It's in the description, all the things that are used in this project, and you're gonna love it. So let's get started. This is our card, and it has a belly band that slides off, and then it's got this neat little fold, and I just loved that it had all these angles to it. And it's really simple. I mean, it looks kind of complicated, but it's not. And I think that this bedazzling paper that I have back here just adds just that much more to it. This Blackberry Beauty Designer Series paper that we're using is in our catalog, the mini catalog. Here's the pieces we're using. Aren't they pretty? Just those colors are just so rich. They're very fall, but kind of non-traditional sort of because of the blackberry in there. But I do love it. Here is the suite. Now again, a suite is something that Stampin' Up! Puts together where they group a bunch of products that all fit together. And this has the designer series paper, the bundle, just everything that goes with it. Here it's got some ribbons, some embellishments, some vellum, all those good things. And with one item number, you can buy the full suite. And then you have everything you need to make all sorts of projects. But you can also buy them individually. So they're going to give you the dies, the stamp set, and then the bundle price saves you 10%, which is also included in the suite. And then we're using another one. There's a new hybrid embossing folder. And I wanted to make sure and show you guys because it is super cool. Here it is. So see how they've put the die into the embossing folder? It kind of snaps into place and allows you to cut this out. And you can cut it out in the large frame, and then you can also detail it. So it's very cool. And I used this with the bedazzling paper in the celebration brochure. This is one of these items here. I'm going to bring in my paper to show you what I did. Now I took an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, and that's going to be this here. And what I did was I cut this down to 5.5 by 11. So this is going to be my card base. And then I had this left over, and it just so happens that when I used my die, this was the die I used on my bedazzling paper. This is the shiny thing behind. It gives you this little stitched frame that fits perfectly in the middle. And so I took the stitched frame and cut out some very vanilla. And then I happened to just lay it on here and went, huh, what do you know? That fits perfectly. So all I had to do was stick it in the trimmer and just do a straight cut. Really simple, right? So that's where I got this. So this piece is 2¼ by 3. This one here is 2 inches by 2¾ inches. This piece here, like I said, is the 5.5 by 11, but then I scored at 3 3/8, and then again at 7 5/8. And so on your trimmer, all of these little marks are every 1/4 inch. And so the way I find the 1/8 the easiest is not only is it a little tiny mark down here, but it's halfway between two of these. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to cut these to fit onto here. Now again, I'm starting out square because I don't want to throw you guys off. I want to be able to cut my diagonals and show you how simple this is going to be. So these pieces are 5¼ inches, so 5¼ by 3 1/8. And I used 2 different designer series papers that are going to kind of meld together well. They're out of the same pack. You could even use the same piece of paper and use one side over here and one side over here. Does that make sense? And then I've got my middle piece, which is 4 inches by 5¼ inches. Then for my belly band, I just took a piece 11 inches and made it 1¼ inches. And then I cut this one at 1 inch, so it'll go over the top. And again, they're both too long. I'd rather have them too long than too short. I'm going to go ahead and trim those off as we go ahead and make our belly band. But that's all the pieces you need right there. That's our whole card. So nothing too hard yet, right? Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to take this piece and we're going to cut our angles. So normally I would come in with a pencil because I can take the pencil and erase it. But I'm going to go in with a white pen just so you guys can see it. So 1 inch long ways is going to go on the bottom. And then we're going to go down the sides 1 inch this way. And then we're going to go down 1 inch this way. Now, if you think you really like this card, you're going to be making lots of them and all this measurement makes you antsy, you can go ahead and do this one cut and then leave it as a template. And so then all you would have to do is set this down here, draw lines with your pencil, and then go cut. Really easy. So you really, if you're going to make several of these, make one as a template and then use that template and then you're all set to go. But then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut from this score line down to that little mark, and I'm going to cut right there. Then I'm going to come this way from that little mark to this little mark, and I'm going to cut there. And I'm going to do that on my trimmer by laying that in the track. So this is my score line. Make that so you can see it. So my score line is right here, and there's my little mark. Okay, so I'm going to line them both up and then just slice. Now I'm going to go from this point, that little mark. And again, I probably start from the flat side. I tend not to go into a point. I don't want to smash that. I want it nice and sharp. So I'd either start in the middle or start at the flat end. And so there's one side, and then I'm going to do the same thing over here from point to bottom. Oops. I quit moving that. And then from point to score line. And so that's it. That's our card base. And I'm going to go ahead and put those little white marks on the inside, because your card's not going to have them, so it won't be an issue, but I don't want them to stand out on the outside of my card. And then I'm going to flatten with the bone folder. The bone folder was one of those things I put off buying for a really long time, thinking I didn't need it, but it makes the thing lay so much flatter. It's really nice, and it can be also used as a scoring tool. I lose my little stylus all the time, so I can usually find my bone folder. Then I'm going to take these little pieces, and you're wondering, okay, well, how are those going to go together? Well, this time what I'm going to do is come down 1 inch on that, and it's going to make it fall right in there. So see, if I even it up over here, like it's going to go on like as if the layer was regular rectangle size. See, I've got my little border there, my border here, my border here, right? So I want it to come down to right there, so we can easily see that that's 1 inch. So it's the same thing. We're going to go 1 inch over, or 1 inch down, sorry, 1 inch down, and then we're going to go 1 inch over. So same thing. And then I'm going to do the reverse over here. Now my points, I came in this way and down this way. So on this one, I want to come down on this side. Okay, does that make sense? If I was to make my cuts over here, it's going to be the wrong direction. I'm going to have to use the other side. So since I for sure want to use this side of the Designer Series paper, I know I want to come down 1 inch over here and then over 1 inch down at the bottom on this side. And again, I'm trying to do it in white so you can see it, but not make it so obvious I can't cut it off. Do you see my little marks? And that's all there is to it. Now I'm going to do the same thing with my trimmer. I'm going to bring that back in. And we're going to find those little marks. And I'm going to go from that mark to this corner. Because this is a point, I want to cut up from this side. And then I'm going to go this way. And because that's a point up here now, I want my blade down here at the bottom. So I'm going into the flat side. Okay. And there we go. So there's one. Did you guys know that I upload these videos to YouTube? And from YouTube, they're also on my Facebook page. So you can go over to the videos tab on my Facebook page and you're going to find all of the Facebook lives in their full entirety with all of our chatting. And then you can also click the YouTube one, and those are going to be edited. That's where I take out all the chit chat, I speed up things that are time consuming, and you just get the nuts and bolts. And usually they go from 30 minutes down to 20. So it's an easy extra 10 minutes if you're in a hurry and just want to find the fine points of some measurements. Click on the YouTube tab instead of the video tab on my Facebook page. But you probably want to be subscribed over at YouTube too. Okay, so here I'm just doing the same thing. I'm going from point to point. See, and mush that corner a little because I went the wrong way. So then that's going to fit perfectly, and I'm going to have my border all the way around. Now this has a little bit, again, very little, nobody's going to notice, but if you're like me and little tiny things bug you and this like little piece of white is going to drive you nuts, one of the things you can do is take a sponge dauber and you can just gently hit the edge of this with Blackberry Bliss, and it's going to hide any of that white. I mean, it's minuscule, nobody's going to notice, but like I said, if you're looking for that perfect card, sponging a little bit of Blackberry Bliss on the back side, so it's only hitting the edge. You wouldn't want it to go over onto this side. You want it to go onto the back side, but it will hide that. And then I'm just going to go ahead and adhere our layers. Then we're ready for our stamping. So I'm going to go ahead and bring that in. And you can use any stamp set you want. The stamp set I wanted actually is on back order. That Harvest Meadow, I didn't grab that one right away. It wasn't one of my first picks. And now it's on back order and I can't even order it. Such a bummer. But I went through and found something kind of similar in style in that it's just kind of a wispy fallish flower. Long and wispy. And I'm going to use, of course, Blackberry Bliss ink. We all know that's one of my favorite things about Stampin' Up! Is that everything is color coordinated, and then I can make my ink and my cardstock match exactly. And I'm just twisting this a little bit to get the look that I want. You know, because my stems are not going straight down, they're not going to notice that I'm off a little bit on the sides. Oop, and see, I smudged. And this is why we have baby wipes on hand and why there's another side to cardstock. And this is why we always stamp before adhering so that I was able to flip it upside down. If this was already in my card, we would not have that option. We would need to stamp something additional or find some way to cover that up. And now these will stain. It's not going to affect the way that they work, but they do stain. And so I wipe off any excess ink and then move them right over to my Stampin' Scrub or my chamois, something to clean them off. I don't let the ink sit because the longer it sits, the more it's going to stain. Okay, so that's going to get mounted onto here. My goal is that this is easy. Stamping is never stressful. Okay, so now I'm going to come in with some dimensional, and I'm going to use up the edges here because I never throw anything away. It's still dimensional even if it is an edge. I mean, and this card would be gorgeous even if we didn't make the angles on the sides. I mean, you could make this a regular gatefold card and have them just be, you know, rectangle. I want to say square, and they're not square, they're rectangle. And then have the belly band slide over. But I just think that angle gives it just that little bit extra that makes it spectacular. So there's that. Now we're ready for the belly band. So I'm going to bring this in. Now, this is where, okay, you're going to go, okay, this is confusing because I don't know if you've noticed, but if you've ever adhered this like all the way across and then tried to score and fold it, it's going to go a little funky. And so we don't want to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and score the first one. So I'm just going to start out with, let's say, 2.5. And I'm going to score that. Now I'm going to take that score line, and I know that my card is 4.25 wide, but I want this to slide over the outside edge. And so I'm going to come halfway between. Remember, this is where I was saying that 1/8. So this is going to be 3/8 right here in the middle. So I'm just going halfway between these two marks. And then I'm going to score again. And so that's going to have it fold over. Now you can either choose to leave it long like that. I think I kind of like it long, but if you wanted to, if it, you know, hung over too much extra, you can trim it. But then I'm going to take this and I'm going to adhere it on one side. So I'm going to take my seal. And we're just going to adhere that one side. I'm not going all the way across. I'm just doing the one. So I'm going to make sure that's, and then I'm going to fold it because I don't know what this does. This takes, I don't know, a 1/16 of an inch, a 32nd of an inch. It's like nothing, but it's enough to really mess it up. Don't ask me why, it just does. So I find if I do all of my folding and I get it nice and, you know, crisp in my fold, then I can come in and adhere it, and I'm not going to have that issue with my foldovers because we've already determined where they're creased. Okay, now again, like I said, it's a little bit extra. That's fine. I'm just going to go ahead and trim that off. Better to be too long than too short. And then I'm ready to adhere it together. Now I want to make sure it's going to go over my card. I mean, you know, it should. But I'm going to wrap it here, and then I'm going to go ahead and adhere it. Rather than adhere it and try to slide it over, just so I make sure that we are indeed loose enough that it's going to slide back and forth. And sure enough, that does it. So we're ready there. And then we just need to put this on. And so I want to make sure that I'm adhering this only across the middle. Like I only want it adhered to the belly band because I want it to slide off. Okay, see, I'm doing that. I'm having to advance my little roller because it's snapping off too low. When I roll it, I need to remember to roll over. And when I do that, it snaps off up here instead of down here. Because when it snaps off lower, I need to advance it in order for it to pick up. Do as I say, not as I do. Here we go. So now I'm just adhering this to that center piece, and now my whole belly band will slide off with the decoration, and there's the inside of our card. So what do you think? Does that look difficult to you guys? From looking at it, I thought it looked kind of difficult, but once you put it together, it's really not. Thank you for joining me. I hope that you enjoyed yourself and you learned something fun and that you agree with me that stamping is stress-free. Thanks. Bye.